Hey, it's Pat Wiley, your blue collar conservative here with a new video. Um, Here to tell you, talk to you about what's been going on since the, I don't know what you want to call it, a riot that spewed from last week's protest, last week's rally at the Ellipse that spread up to the Capitol. One of the things I cannot get over is the amount of lying being done by the media and by the people in our own government, people in our government that are Republicans. All right, they just want to cover their fucking ass. Pardon my language. I'm sorry about that, but they want to cover their ass. I'm going to go into what they're lying about. One of the things you keep hearing from everybody is how incendiary President Trump's speech was, that it incited insurrection. If that were the case, now I'm stealing from Rush here, Rush Limbaugh. If that were the case, they would be playing those sound bites like crazy, and they're not. They're not playing a single thing from Trump's speech to support their case, because if you watched Trump's speech, and I watched Trump's speech, there was nothing incendiary. There was nothing, it was like every other Trump speech, got people riled up, but he didn't tell anybody to go storm the Capitol and break in. Now, the other thing that is getting on my nerves is the people how they're classifying some of the people that have been there, and bringing out some of the people who have been there, and saying that this group wasn't involved and that group wasn't involved. And I'll tell you right now, there was a mixed bag of assholes in that building that day. If I would have went to that rally, I would have walked up towards the Capitol, and I don't think I would have stepped a foot further than that reflecting pool, seeing what's going on. I'm a retired cop. I'm not going to go and break the law because I'm pissed off. Now, there's some people who were really pushed to the limit. You have this poor woman that died, Ashley Babbitt is her name. She went there because they're trying to say she's QAnon and she's this and she's that. No, what she was a business owner. Her and her husband built a business, a successful business. And the COVID restrictions, the excessive COVID restrictions placed on them by the city of San Diego and the governor of California, put them out of business. They were losing their business, they were losing their home, they were losing their way of life, because of excessive government overreach. And that's why she was there. She went into the Capitol, she was trespassing. She has been depicted as a person who was ripping at a door and trying to climb through a window. There was, up until recently, a video online that showed exactly what was going on there. And the reason they don't want that video on anymore is because it doesn't support their narrative. Because Ashley Babbitt, when that shot was fired, was 15 feet away from that door. She was 15 feet away from that door. Now, was the officer justified in shooting? Yes, because a guy named John Sullivan was climbing through that window. And John Sullivan was trying to get in, and that officer was in fear of what could happen next. Does this guy have a weapon? He doesn't have anywhere to retreat to. He stood his ground, and he discharged his weapon, and he rightfully discharged his weapon. But the round didn't go where it was intended. It didn't hit Sullivan. In fact, it went past three or four other people, till it hit Ashley Babbitt. So she was not crawling through the window, and the video clearly shows this. And where this video came from was from John Sullivan, because John Sullivan, who claimed he was a documentarian who was there with a group of 5 other people, and he and those 5 supposed documentarians were all BLM and Antifa people from Utah. John Sullivan, the guy who was crawling through that window, is wanted by the Utah State Police. None of that supports the narrative that the left want you to think that there was no BLM and Antifa people there. Clearly they were, and clearly they were responsible for the death of that woman. Because if they wouldn't have executed those actions, trying to crawl through the window and causing that officer to discharge his weapon, Ashley Babbitt would still be alive. And guess what? That's murder. That's murder. And they're covering up for her murderers. Because if you're committing a crime and someone dies, that's murder. So the media and the government are covering that up. Those videos, if you want to learn about what was on those videos, you can read an article from a publication called Desert Times, where they interviewed this guy. They interviewed Sullivan, and everything he said occurred there was contradicted by his own video that he posted, that he and his cohorts posted. And another publication that wrote up about John Sullivan is Red State. So Sullivan was clearly there. He was clearly in video. He's clearly seen. He was interviewed. He was taken into custody after the shooting and was interviewed by Capitol Police. But because of the shooting, the officer was segregated from the investigation. And because of that, and their claim to be documentarians, that they were documenting the whole thing, the whole rally and everything, the Capitol Police treated them, didn't investigate further. They thought they were dealing with journalists, and they released them, and they went back to Utah. And now they're in hiding again because they're wanted in Utah. He went and got interviewed by the Desert Times, but they're wanted in Utah. In fact, there's a death on him in Utah, and a shooting on him in Utah related to BLM and Antifa. There are also other people who have been identified in pictures that you see from on the posters from the FBI, who are from groups that are from Antifa and BLM. Now, I don't want you to think I'm just picking on it because there was a lot, like I said, this was a mixed bag of assholes. You see a lot of pictures with a lot of people that have insignias on them, on their patch insignias on them, and what they're wearing, indicative of the Boogaloo Boys. Boogaloo Boys are right wing. There was a right wing white supremacist group that was there. They marched all the way up to the barriers. Guess what? Once they got to the barriers, they stopped. They stopped. They didn't go in. Those fucking racists were even smart enough to know this far and no further, and they left. But there was a lot of people from a lot of groups that really didn't belong in there. Now I'm getting to the QAnon shaman. He's one of the people who has been most lied about in the media. They keep calling him the QAnon shaman. His name is Jake Angeli. And Jake Angeli is a fucking nut. He's a nut. That's the only thing you can describe this guy. If you actually took the time, the media obviously didn't, to look into this guy, his views are all over the place, like someone with schizophrenia would be. He walks around with a sign about QAnon, but he was at Standing Rock. He was at Yellowstone with the Native Americans. He was in the Navy for 2 years and was still at the rank of seaman apprentice. And then they moved. He had a psychotic break when they wanted to give him an anthrax vaccine, which they want to vaccinate you and you're in the military. They want to put something in your arm. They put it in your arm, whether you frickin' like it or not. Well, this guy was on the USS Kitty Hawk, and he had a psychotic meltdown because they wanted to give him a vaccine. He was an anti-vaxxer. Most anti-vaxxers are left-wing. there's more ever since the what we're going through now. Now you're seeing a lot more right wing, but prior to this, you were all these. Most of your anti-vaxxers were left wing. He's also anti. Um, um, what the hell you call him? It's the he's one of those Monsanto people who don't like the genetically modified organisms, the GMOs. He's very anti-GMO. He only eats organic food. So he's into alternative energy. How many conservatives are into alternative energy? Not too many. He's into a lot of crazy other things. But getting back to the fact of what he was discharged for, he was taken off the Kitty Hawk and taken to Puget Sound Naval Base in Washington State, and he was put in what's called a transient personnel unit. And TPUs, I can tell you what TPUs are. TPUs are, they stick people there that they don't know what the hell to do with for one reason or another. A lot of people who have medical problems that got hurt go to TPUs. But also another place where they stick nutty people, because they don't have the mental hospitals they did years ago. They don't have the military hospitals they had years ago, like where they stuck L. Ron Hubbard. But so if L. Ron Hubbard would have been in the Navy today, he would have been stuck in a TPU and then kicked in the ass out the door. And that's what they did. They gave him according to the publication, says they would not, because of privacy laws, they would not give the information about his discharge. And that right there is telling you it was a medical discharge. Because if you get a less than honorable discharge, they don't give a shit. They'll tell you right out. We booted him out. So this guy got a medical discharge, which is kind. They're being kind to him because he still gets veterans benefits when you get a medical discharge. So they kicked him out. He was, like I said, his views were everywhere. He was absolute nutcase, and they put him. The media boxed him in and cut everything that didn't fit their paradigm about him. All the information that didn't fit their paradigm, they cut out. So they call him the QAnon shaman. When this guy he's a nut. He's not QAnon. He's not BLM. He's not Antifa. He's a nut. But that's what the QAnon shaman is. He's just a freaking nut. Now, about Ash, I think I pretty much covered all I want to cover on this video about the lies. Don't believe anything you see on any of the channels, including Fox, because Fox is gone to me. Newsmax, unfortunately, because they don't have as many resources, they miss the ball sometimes. But I would trust something that's coming out of the Newsmax over Fox or MSDNC or any of those other ones. We're being lied to about Trump. We're being lied to about this incident, and it's really a shame. It's making things worse. Nobody's really making a move to try to bring the temperatures down. I think Trump being quiet has wanted to try to bring the temperature down, but the psychos in the Capitol are just, let's impeach him with a week to go. All right, you're not going to be able to do a trial because he's out. You can't put him on trial for what he did in office after he left office, because once he leaves office, then he's a private citizen again. So that's just the way it works. They're going to try to do it that way. They're trying to tear the country apart. Well, because it suits them. All right, that's all I have to say, and I'll be checking in with another video soon.